There have been times over the years, I've been watching WWE television for a very long time. And there have been many occasions over the years where I have been embarrassed to watch this television show, whether it be Raw, SmackDown, whatever it may be. Katie Vick, for example, comes to mind. That's sort of at the top of the list, right? Katie Vick. Doesn't really get any worse than that. There's been some bad, god-awful television over the years. I don't know that I have ever seen a segment as embarrassing, just on all levels, as the one that we saw tonight on this SmackDown show. I really don't. When you really take everything together collectively, like when you consider what the segment was, when you consider that this was a segment that was promoting a WrestleMania main event, we're not just talking about some random program. We're not talking about some random feud. We're not talking about some random PLE main event. We're talking about one of the WrestleMania main events, which has been hijacked by an outsider being brought in for reasons that have absolutely nothing to do with the story that was being told between the two men that are actually in the main event. Because that's really what's happened here, right? Whoever you want to lay the blame on for this main event, which was going along, perfectly fine, was hijacked. And now it has turned into something completely, I don't even recognize what this match is. I don't even recognize what this match between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton at WrestleMania is supposed to be. I really don't. But I'm watching this segment and like the word embarrassed, the word pathetic comes to mind. They were trying so hard tonight to sell tickets to a show that is not sold out. And the reason we know this is because they have beaten us over the head with it over the past week on their own television show. They did it last Friday. They did it on Monday. They did it again tonight. WrestleMania is not sold out. And so to incorporate this, what they did last week was bad enough, but to continue to incorporate that into the story and do what they did tonight was sheer desperation on the part of this company, the likes of which I cannot ever recall seeing as we build to a WrestleMania main event. Like, I've seen some bad WrestleMania builds before to a main event. Nothing like what we saw tonight. This was a truly historic night here on SmackDown. And I'm not even talking about the fact that, we've talked about SmackDown just as the drizzling diarrhea shits right now. It is the worst show on television, certainly in terms of wrestling shows, the worst show on television. But just watching Pat McAfee out there in the middle of the ring doing his shtick, which is what he is being told to do. This is not even a personal knock on Pat McAfee. The funny thing about all of this is that Pat McAfee, up until last week, was actually a beloved figure, by and large, by the WWE audience. He had been there, he had been a commentator, he had been on television for a number of years. And I think by and large, the audience, they respected him, they liked him, they could plug him in wherever they needed him, like they did last year with that match with Gunther if they needed a baby face to plug in there. And so now they've taken someone who the fans previously liked and they said, okay, we're going to make you a heel now. And now the fans are, shitting all over him. Okay, fine, I guess. But he is now the focal point of WrestleMania this year. I want you to think about that. Pat McAfee is the focal point for WrestleMania. And this is where we are right now. Now, they had an opportunity after last week because we know this is something that was run up the flagpole. This goes higher than WWE creative, right? We've heard all the stories over the past week. We know where this originates from. This goes beyond anybody in the writer's room. This goes beyond just the creative brain trust in WWE. But even still, Ari Emanuel himself, they had a week to look at the situation and abort mission. To abort the mission. You can still push ticket sales. You can still lower ticket prices and push ticket sales. You could do all of that stuff if you want to. But they had a week to look at this and go, okay, we see the reaction. We see that people have been shitting all over this all week long. And yes, last week's show apparently did better ratings than SmackDown has done in a very long time, which is not surprising because they had advertised coming into the show that we would get the reveal for the Randy Orton phone call angles. So, of course, nobody knew what the reveal was going to be, but they had built this up over a period of weeks. I'm not at all surprised to find out that last week was a highly rated episode of SmackDown. Even still, there was still time for them to abandon ship and salvage this WrestleMania main event that they had been building between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. And it would have been as simple as Randy Orton coming out this week because the man is a viper, the man is a snake, and Pat McAfee's out there acting like a fool, and he gets dropped with an RKO. Never trust a snake. And we could all just forget that any of this shit ever happened. Now, of course, what that would have accomplished is it would have put Randy Orton in a position to be cheered even more than he was already being cheered. So they didn't do that. Instead, they doubled down on what we saw last week. They didn't read the room, and we ended up what we ended up with tonight. Pat McAfee coming into the show promised a massive surprise. Massive surprise. Now, of course, you should know better than to trust WWE when it comes to any sort of massive surprise or any sort of mystery angle that they may be doing in terms of what the payoff might be. And if you were left disappointed tonight, then you have nobody to blame for that but yourself. I don't know what the fuck you've been paying attention to. This is WWE that we're talking about here. What did you expect? Truly, what did you expect tonight? The big surprise to be. The Rock? Give me a break. But he promised a massive surprise for this show. Do you want to know what that surprise was? Would you like to know what the massive surprise was for SmackDown tonight? Pat McAfee, in the course of his promo, mentioned that Ram Trucks, the official sponsor of WrestleMania, he made a phone call to Ram Trucks, and he got them to agree to cover 25% of all night one only night one WrestleMania tickets that are purchased from now up until the end of Raw this Monday night. And as soon as he said it, man, they couldn't get that fucking graphic up on that screen quick enough. 25% off. So, hey, the good news is that if you would like to go to WrestleMania, they did, in fact, drop ticket prices because now you've got 25% off for WrestleMania Saturday. Now through Monday. Get your tickets now. So for everybody who wants to be there live to witness Pat McAfee against Randy Orton against Cody Rhodes, I presume with Pat McAfee in his corner at ringside because he's in the graphic. In fact, the graphic for SmackDown tonight, I'm convinced they're trolling us at this point. The preview graphic for SmackDown tonight had Cody Rhodes and Pat McAfee, and Randy Orton was literally relegated to the background. He has been relegated, and if you watch the television show tonight, it actually makes all the sense in the world because Randy Orton was a background player tonight. He was in the background. We were 1 week away from WrestleMania. One half of the WrestleMania main event is now a bit player in the background. The real players here are Pat McAfee and Cody Rhodes. That is what this has become. But that was the big surprise tonight. The majority of the people who are watching this television show all over the country and all over the world are not even attending this fucking event. But boy, they made sure that you knew there were 25% off for all WrestleMania Night 1 tickets. Thanks, Ram. Ram it up your ass. That was the big surprise tonight for those of you who are wondering what it was. But that wasn't the only surprise that we got. Oh no, WWE was full of surprises tonight because Jelly Roll was back on the show. Now, the last time we saw Jelly Roll was a couple of weeks ago. He got dropped with an RKO by Randy Orton. And I told you last week, I said, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if the main event of Backlash turns out to be a tag team match with Randy Orton and Pat McAfee against Cody Rhodes and Jelly Roll. And now Dave Meltzer and The Observer this week had that very report that the current plan for Backlash on May 9th, which I believe is in Tampa, is to do a tag team match with Cody Rhodes and Jelly Roll against Randy Orton and Pat McAfee. The same Pat McAfee who reiterated tonight that if Randy Orton does not leave Las Vegas as the WWE champion, that he, being McAfee, will never again appear on wrestling television, which would seem to telegraph the outcome of the main event of night one. So Jelly Roll was back on the show and he was angry. Oh, he was very angry. He was very angry. He wanted to get his hands on Randy Orton for what he did. He literally put his hands on Pat McAfee. They're building a feud between Jelly Roll and Pat McAfee. Yes. And in fact, at the end of the segment with Pat McAfee and Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton finally popped up on the Tron about 5 hours after the fucking promo started. And we see Randy Orton, and he had, off camera, he had assaulted Jelly Roll. He had laid him out. Evidently, this is supposed to get heat, because they're trying to get Randy Orton booed. Do you know what they accomplished tonight? Randy Orton, they accomplished one thing. Randy Orton is no longer getting cheered. At least he wasn't tonight in San Jose. So, good job, guys. But guess what? Randy Orton barely got any kind of reaction at all whatsoever. He went from getting overwhelming cheers and these great ovations when he would come out because the people wanted to see him win number 15 at WrestleMania. And he comes out tonight and he gets nothing. Nothing. He gets no reaction. You know who's getting all the heat right now? Pat McAfee is getting all the heat. And now what they've done is they've taken Randy Orton. He's coming out and the fans don't know what the fuck to think. So good job, guys. Good job. And when the segment was over, guess who walked away with the WWE Championship over his shoulder? Not Randy Orton. Not Cody Rhodes. Pat McAfee. Because he is now officially the center of attention here on this show. He is the central focus of this story. I have nothing against Pat McAfee as a performer. He has been used in roles before, even the Gunther stuff, which I didn't mind. And Pat, look, he's done a good job with that stuff before. We've seen him play heel before, many years ago in NXT. If you remember, I think he was on one side, Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era were on the other side. We've seen him do this before. And I already saw some comments in the chat and in other places from people saying, oh, well, this is the reaction that Pat McAfee is talking about. He's talking about the IWC. He's getting everybody riled up. It's getting the reaction that it's desired to get. There are people who I swear to God, they will defend every fucking thing this company does until their dying breath. They will take that WWE cock and they will shove it down their throat until they fucking gag and their dinner will be all over the fucking floor. They feel compelled to defend every move that this company makes. The point is not whether or not Pat McAfee goes out there and gets heat. Pat McAfee can go out there and get heat because he's annoying. Of course he can get heat. That's not the point. How do you not look at this and understand what the problem is, though? How do you defend that? Don't you realize the real problem here is that you have taken the focus away from the two performers in the match? They are no longer the central focus of this match at WrestleMania. What WWE has done in 1 week, okay, we now have 2 episodes of SmackDown. In 1 week, they have ruined one of the main events of WrestleMania. And it started last week when Pat McAfee went out there and again is part of this angle, this brilliant idea that they came up with. Whether or not he was unscripted and they didn't know what he was going to say, the fact is they sent him out there. They sent him out there. And he cut a promo in an effort to hype up WrestleMania talking about how everything sucks. Now, it's one thing if I come on here every week and I tell you how everything sucks, because guess what? It fucking sucks. I'm not going to come on here and lie to you. I'm telling you like it is. You watch the same fucking show that I do. You could tell me I'm lying? You know everything out of my mouth is 100% true. Every time I come on here and talk about SmackDown, the worst television show right now going in all of wrestling, it's been this way for most of the year. It gets progressively worse week by week. I am not telling any lies when I talk about that, but it's one thing for me, because I'm totally divorced from all of this, right? I'm an independent party here. I have no connection to any of this shit. I can come on here and give my honest opinion. It's very different when you have somebody go on the show and is part of your main event angle. He goes out there and says everything sucks. The product sucks. The roster sucks. The champion sucks. The show isn't sold out. And we're here to save wrestling, right? Everything's the shits. But we're here to save wrestling. You don't see the issue with this? How does that sell tickets? But what they've done is they've taken a match that I was genuinely looking forward to, and I've been waiting a few years to see WWE finally do this match, and they have managed to ruin it. They have taken a match that I was genuinely looking forward to seeing at WrestleMania for a long time, and now I find myself in a position where I sit here and I'm like, I just can't wait for this shit to be over with. Can we just get this over with? Can we fast forward to the end of this so we could be done with this? That's where I am right now in this. For Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. Like, if you've listened to any of the shows I've done over the last couple of years, you've heard me talk about how, man, I can't believe they haven't done this match yet. I can't believe it. I can't wait for them to finally do a proper story between these two. There's so much history there to build on. And now I find myself in a situation a week out where it's like, I just can't wait for this shit to be over with. That's fucking sad. And I guarantee you I'm not the only one to feel that way. Now, if you're somebody who actually likes what's going on, or you think, oh man, this is adding a level of excitement to WrestleMania that wasn't there before. Look, I'm not even shitting on you for that. Like whatever the fuck you want to like, but don't sit here and tell me that, oh, well, the IWC only hates it because they're getting worked, or the IW, like, seriously, fuck off. Seriously. Fuck right off with that. You have to understand where these people who are watching this show are coming from when they talk about how awful and how counterproductive this angle is. And by the way, besides all of that, let's put that all on the side here for a second. That segment tonight was fucking terrible. It was a fucking awful, awful fucking segment. Just objectively, bad television.